Okay, so the first question, I think that should be very straightforward. If you try to open up M minus alpha I matrix uh, using the characteristic equation of eigenvector, you should be able to do this. So the equation is following. Right, let's say this is your, sorry, we need to put the eigenvector. And that's your eigenvector, right? If you open this up and see what happens, so this becomes mx minus alpha I x, right? Mx is what? Is the lambda x, right? So this is the equation of eigenvector, right? Minus alpha ix. So now you can take the x common. This becomes alpha minus lambda minus alpha and x, right? So this is identity matrix. So this is what your matrix is, 1 minus alpha I, right? So your equation for eigenvector is the following now. What you see is that x was the eigenvector of matrix M. Thus, we see that this is the eigenvector of M minus alpha I with a different eigenvalue, right? Different eigenvalue. So basically that was all for the first question. This was your question number 1. Okay, so what was the next question? Given the following information, so I have actually, I just wanted you to express this in equation form, but the thing was already given, right? It was already given out there. So let's copy this. So this is what the question is, right? So what will we do here? I only ask you to define the xi. So xi need to be defined based on what I wrote here, right? So I say that it takes the value 1 for the vertex itself, which means that we can write this as y raised to the power 0, right? Isn't it? Anything raised to the power 0 is 1. And this quantity is your y raised to the power 1. This is your y raised to the power 2, and so on. This is y raised to the power d. Isn't it? So xi would be sum of y raised to the power d, right? Whatever your d's were. Isn't it? So that's your equation for the centrality. So the next question is the third one. Show that the expected number of triangles expected means maximum possible, right? In this case. So that's your question number 3. So the expected number of triangles incident on all nodes of a network. First of all, we wrote all nodes, right? So that should be important to note, all nodes. So first we instead look for a single node. What is the value for a single node? Single node. So you remember we had this illustration in one of the class. Let's say this is one network. And this is my ith node, right? And it has the degree ki. So what is the maximal number of triangles incident on this node? So we know that there are 3 triangles. One is this one. Another one is this one. And this one, right? So there are 3 triangles. But that we looked into the layout of this network and did it manually. But what can we have as an equation? So that is similar to the number of handshakes, right? So that's going to be ki square. Now, to be very precise, since everything will be twice here, it should be 1 by ki square. And to be very precise, if we don't, there are no self edges here. So that should be half ki times ki minus 1, right? So in this case, if you put the value of ki, that's the 3 times 2, 3 minus 1. And this becomes 6 by 2, 3, right? That's the answer. Now, we know the value for the single node. What we need to do is we need to get it for all nodes, which means we sum over this quantity. So the value for all the nodes is going to be sum over I of this quantity, which is half times ki minus 1, right? So you can take the half outside and this becomes sum over I for, let's say I go inside the bracket, this becomes sum over I to ki square minus sum over I. This is in one bracket, sum over ki, isn't it? So now you can, this is the summation of all the degrees, square of the degrees. This is summation of all the degrees, right? So another way of writing the summation of all degrees is take the average degree and multiply it by total number of nodes, which is n times the average degree, right? And likewise, another way of writing summation of ki square is the n times the average, the k square average, right? So basically, this is nothing but this thing. So the next question is, what are the problems with the eigenvector centrality when applied to directed networks, and what are the potential solutions? So this was actually not a problem. This is simply what I taught, and I hope most of you would have answered this correctly. So the first problems, the problems with the eigenvector centrality. Right. So the first problem is the which eigenvector should I take if the matrix is asymmetrical? If matrix is asymmetrical, because I asked for the problem with the eigenvector centrality for the directed networks, right? Directed graphs, which is also known as digraphs. And we learned that these matrices of directed networks are asymmetrical. And then if it is asymmetrical A adjacency matrix, then the problem is whether we take the right eigenvector or left. Right one is your column eigenvector, which is the usually the case that when we write, and this is your row column vector. So this is basically right or left is known as based on your multiplication. This is written as on the right hand side AX here, and this is written as X transpose A. This is row vector and written on the left hand side. So which one should we take? If the matrix is symmetrical, we take the either one. It's the same thing basically. However, when you have asymmetrical matrix, these two vectors will be different. So we take right one because this deals with the incoming degree, in degree. Okay, and we learned about this. This deals with the in degree, and we made an assumption that in degree is more important, and it indeed is more important in many networks. But then we learned the fact that there could be some scenario where we would be interested in out degree also. Then eigenvector centrality is not a solution there. Okay, and so this is one of the solution. We only take the right eigenvector. The second problem was the trailing zero, the trail of zeros, right? So we learned that if you have two nodes A and B, and B only gets the connection from A, the incoming edges to B is only coming from A, and A is having no incoming edges, only the outgoing edges. B is having all other outgoing edges and one incoming edge from A. Since A is not having any incoming edge, its centrality, which is based on n degree, is going to be 0. And if this is 0, this is the only node from which B is gathering its centrality. So the value becomes 0 here too, right? So this trails further in the network if we have such a scenario repeated again and again. So one of the solution that we learned was the cache centrality, right? And which says that we can rewrite the eigenvector centrality as we assign certain free centrality values to our node given in this vector beta. So, but this was a very trivial solution. One of the major problem was if you have a node which is having high in degree, and I gave you the example of Amazon, and it's also having high out degree. Since it is having high out degree, my node, which is here, okay, X node, will also get high degree because I just happen to be linked to this node just because this node Y is having high out degree. So there is a good chance that I will have connection from this node. And since this is also having high in degree, I get a very high centrality here, right? Which is not true, right? I might be irrelevant, but just because I'm connected to a node which is having very high in degree, I happen to get a high centrality. And one of the reason I'm connected to this high in degree node is because it is also having high out degree. So we normalize this equation by out degree of the node that we are connected to. So this equation becomes X alpha A and B multiplied by D inverse matrix, which is a diagonal matrix. This is a diagonal matrix which is having degree as the diagonal. This is out degree of the node that we are connected. This is not ith node for which we are calculating centrality. This is the jth node from which we are gathering the centrality for ith node, right? So that's the these are the problems of eigenvector centrality when applied to directed network, and these are the possible solutions. So if you have written this much, you may get full marks. So this was rather straightforward. Show that the following, this is the fifth question, show that the following expression equals to n times the covariance of two vectors of adjacency matrix. So this is the expression I have given, Nij minus, so Nij is the observed number of common interacting partners of node I and j, and Ki Kj by n is basically expected number of interacting partners of node I and j, common interacting partners. So if you look at this, so I have given you the equation Nij minus Ki Kj by n. Now I said this is n times the covariance, right? So what I can do, given that I have declared this is n times, so I can normalize it by 1 by n now, because this is n times covariance, which means that to get this equal to covariance, I should multiply it by 1 by n, right? So if you do so, so that was a trick basically, and then this is the reverse calculation of what we did in the class. So this becomes 1 by n, and now you open up Nij, which is common number of interacting partner in terms of adjacency matrix. This will be I to k times j to k or k to j. Since this is not a directed network, you can write it in either way. Minus 1 by n times 1 by n, which is 1 by n square. Write ki, which is summation over k for aik times summation over k ajk. Now whether you write square here or do not write this square here, it doesn't matter. But now this equations will tell you that this is pretty similar to covariance, and we can solve it further. So take one, distribute 1 by n, so that this expression is more interpretable in terms of covariance. Whether you write or not, it doesn't matter, right? Okay, so this is the multiplication, right? So what you can do now is take the 1 by n and write it as summation over k as outside, and then you write this is your xy, right? Xy in scalar form, this is nothing but your x times y, right? Minus the mean of x. So this is the mean of aik, so which is the mean of aik times the mean of the x mean minus y mean, right? So mean of ajk. Right? So these two quantities are actually same. There is no k here, sorry. So these two quantities are basically same, it's just that the index is different, right? So you can write it as in terms of covariance. You can also think of putting it as x square, mean square, x bar square basically. But this equation is basically a covariance equation, and you know that this is this can be further written as aik minus mean of ai times ajk minus mean of aj. Right? This is what the equation you are aware of, right? In brackets. This multiplied by this one. So you can, algebraically, these two things are same. And we learned in one of the class that how these two quantities are same. So this is nothing but the covariance. This is nothing but the reverse calculation of what I discussed in the class. We go other way around. In the class, I started with covariance and got this, and right now you are doing other way around. Okay, so that was question 5. Plot the size of the giant component as a function of occupation probability, number of vertices Li. Occupation probability is number of proportion of vertices that are alive. One in road network and second in internet network for a random failure that you learned in the class, and for targeted attack that you need to speculate how would it look like. So I think this should also be rather straightforward. So in first case, we are plotting phi occupation probability or proportion of nodes, fraction of total nodes Li, and this is your size of the giant component. And as we learned that lower the phi c value, okay, better it is. So we have two networks. One is the road network and second is the internet. And we know that the road network is actually not the scale-free network, it's more of an address-Renyi network. And this is scale-free network. So you would know that scale-free network is more robust. So the phi c value is going to be rather small. So this is going to be somewhat here. Your phi c value is going to be very, very small. And this is for road internet network. And for your road network, you're going to have somewhere here. So this is your one. Right. So this was random failure of node, and we learned about this in percolation class. The second question was to have targeted attack, which means that you sort the nodes based on their degree. Highest degree node, which is the hubs, will be top, and then second highest degree node, and third highest node, and so on. And then you delete based on their high degree, which means that we are breaking the network rapidly because, and we know that scale-free network is having skewed degree distribution, and if you remove the top hub, it will start breaking very quickly. So this scale-free networks are fragile to, they are robust to random failure, but they are fragile to targeted attacks. They are robust to random failure. So now we know that we are having targeted attacks. Network will break. Network is not robust. So phi c value is going to be somewhere towards the end here, right? Phi c is very high then. And road network has a rather uniform degree distribution. So having a targeted attack is similar to having a random failure. So for network 1, road network, we are going to have curve which is similar to the earlier one. However, in case of internet network, this is going to be very close to the value 1. This is your phi c. So this is what I was expecting. So you didn't need any derivation or anything. It was just based on this fact that we have here. Well, this was taught to you. This is what we learned percolation This was not taught to you, but if you want the derivation, the equations for this dynamics, you can look in the Newman's book. They have given that too. Okay, but I didn't want that. But this can be expected by this fact itself, right? You didn't need any derivation. This was your question number 5. Sorry, 6. It was 6. Okay, now question number 7. Modulative matrix B contains observe minus expected edges between nodes. Express the expanded matrix equation, not the scalar form of B. That should also be right. This was just one line answer. So, okay, so this was your question 6. Now the question 7. So we know that the elements of the matrix Bij are equal to Aij, which is the expected interaction, whether this value is 0 or 1, and then the expected interaction, which can be between 0 to 1 because we are calculating expected 1. So that is given by Ki Kj by 2m. Now 2m is like a constant, right? So if you want to write the matrix equation now, then it becomes B A minus. Now Ki Kj, how can you write in matrix form? Ki times Kj. So you can write this vector. You can write K vector, which is the vector of degrees, times K vector transpose. Okay, then you get Ki Kj, right? Multiplication. So you can actually take a toy example of this Ki Kj is basically will be stored in this vector, right? So, and 2m is just constant. You can't write it in a matrix form. So that was the final equation that I was expecting. Okay, the question question number 8 is the easiest one. In the following graph, is the following graph balanced or unbalanced? Is it clusterable or non-clusterable? What else can you suggest about it? So there are 3 parts of this question. Okay, so we have a network in the following form. The first thing that you can do is the start coloring the nodes. So first of all, they have loops which are balanced loop that can be tested based on the odd or even number of negative edges, right? The other way is to look at whether it's clusterable. The second part was the clustering thing. So you start coloring. Let's say I colored this node in red color. There is a positive connection between I'm traversing the network randomly. I went to this node, and since there was a plus sign, I put the red color again. Then I went to the, let's say I went to this way. There's a negative sign, so I take a opposite color. I put the green here, plus sign again, green here again, right? And then negative sign, so red again. I have traversed all the nodes. Now what you see here is, it is pretty clear that we have plus signs for this cluster and plus sign for this cluster, and inter-cluster edges are negative. So you have one cluster here and another cluster here. Right? So this is clusterable. And anyway, Harari's theorem says that if the network is having only the balanced loop, then it is clusterable, and this was a proof that I just draw. You didn't need to show this proof, but if you have shown that this is only having balanced loops, and any network with only balanced loops are clusterable, right? The third part was, third part of this question was, what else can you talk about this layout? So isn't it clear that this is also your K5 graph, which tells you that this is A-planar. This is one of the key graphs, and if you have K5 or expansion of this graph, K5 or UG graph, utility graph, in any network, then that network is A-planar. So you can also say that this graph is A-planar. That was the third part of the question. Okay, the last question was, what is the major limitation of co-citation matrix in assessing similarity among nodes or articles? Express the potential solution in the matrix form. And that was also not a problem. This was something that I taught, and you were just expected to express that. Question number 9. So the co-citation matrix has the following problem. The citation follows the log normal distribution of our law distribution. Right. So there are few nodes over here which are having very high citation. X is a citation here. Citations. And most nodes have a very few. So these nodes will have a more connection with other nodes, and they will all the nodes which are having high citation will tend to show more similarity because they will have more nodes in common, more interacting partners which are common. Right. So that was the problem with the co-citation matrix, which is given by C. So the co-citation of, so C is given by A transpose, right? So which is basically in the expanded form. This tells you how often K is citing I, as well as how often K is citing J. K is citing J and K is citing I. So this can be rewritten as A IK times A JK transpose, and in the matrix form we get this. Solution to this is the bibliographic index, and we know that the bibliography, or the number of references, follows a rather uniform distribution, rather normal distribution. So which means that this is a less skewed measure of similarity between nodes, and this is given by summation over K, with K are the interacting partners. How often I cites K, which means differences of node I, right? How often I is citing K, and likewise how often how often J is citing K, which means differences of J node, right? And this can be written as K, and this we rewrite as IK, which is transpose times Kj. So this is your bibliographic index matrix for the bibliographic index, and that is A transpose A. Even if you didn't have this derivation, but had some kind of explanation of these two things, that should be sufficient. Okay, so yeah, that was all. That was all about your paper. If you have any doubts about these explanations, we can discuss that now. Anybody? If you did something else and you think that that is also correct, we can discuss it.
So
Yeah.
I just tried to expand the modularity matrix using the eigenfunction for K.
Eigenfunction. Okay. So how would you write a modularity matrix in terms of eigenfunction, and why would we write in eigenfunction?
No, sir. I just converted the K matrix, the column matrix, in the form of eigenfunction.
Okay, A1.
And
Right?
then expand it further. Yes, sir.
A1. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. So what she's saying is that this is nothing but your A times the unit vector, unit column vector, and we know that we learned about this in one of the class, right? So you can write in that form also. That's also fine. Anybody else? Okay, so I will be assessing your answer sheets in this week anytime. So either this week or early next week, you will know your marks. And I request you to read your paper and get over with it, and then I will also give you the assignment so that not everything is stacked up towards the end of the semester. When is your final exam? In the first week of April?
It is around 15th April. Like
15th April. Okay, so then it seems we will have sufficient time for you to present the paper in 30 minutes. It seems we have sufficient time to have a journal club where you can project the paper on the screen. It's up to you. If you want to make a PowerPoint, that's also fine with me, because sometimes you want to write something or draw something, and PDF doesn't allow you, so you can project it or open a whiteboard on Zoom to convey what you're saying. That's also fine. It's up to you. But there is no compulsion of making PowerPoint or having a whiteboard chalked up. You can project your PDF of the paper and explain the equations or the plots and talk about the significance. Okay? That's also fine. So let's do that. So which means that in each day we can have 2 students to present, half an hour each, maybe 20-25 minutes. All right. So since we have time, if we didn't have time, then I would have asked you to write the review article, review of the paper. I will declare the schedule later on. And by next week, you will also have your assignment in hand.
so the exam starts on 12th April exactly.
Okay, still we will have time. So this, if we do it in 1 week, 4 days, so 8 students, so in 2 weeks we will be done basically. Okay, so 2 or 2.5 weeks we will be done with that. And I think we will have that much time. And if you don't have time, we can always take a call of writing the review. You can do both also if you want. If you want to submit the review, I can open up a link on Google Classroom, and you can submit over there as well as present. This is up to you how you want to do it. And in the next class, we will move on with the dynamics. We will first look at the price model and the preferential attachment model, how the network grows following the power law distribution. And we will see how many models are there. And we will learn that what is the common aspect of all the models, how different models still follows power law. Okay, so we'll see that in the next class, and then we'll go on to the epidemic models and the diffusion on the network, and then few other things. Okay, few other things. For example, we can talk about the controllability of network. We can talk about the coupled networks, which is actually not in the book, but some additional things we can discuss. There's one of the important algorithm known as flux balance analysis, which has huge application in analysis of metabolic networks in biology, in biochemistry. You can talk about that method. Is you don't need to know biology, underlying biology, but you can appreciate how important that technique is, called flux balance analysis, FBA. Talk about that. And likewise, we also need to talk about some of the algorithms. For example, how do we calculate shortest paths in a network? We will look at the complexity of certain calculations. For example, when you calculate the betweenness of nodes, how much computational time it is going to take. Likewise, a few other algorithms. Okay, so that will be on top of the syllabus. We'll see that whether we want to include those things in the exam or not. But I think we will have time to discuss these things.
So,
Yeah.
Regarding the term paper, the term sheet, does it have to be handwritten or typed out?
Should be handwritten. Just scan it and send me. But most likely we may have a journal club, okay, where you have to present it and we are done with it in 20 minutes, 20, 30 minutes.
Should we not start writing it out, or
you can
are
write
you?
it and see, let's say you write it on a paper, you can project that paper on the screen, okay, handwritten paper where you have drawn your own cartoons and plots and equations just for the sake of explanation. You can project that, there's no issue. So it's completely up to you how you want to present it. If you're writing it down, that's going to help you anyway. And you never know, we may not have time in the end, number of slots which are needed, then you just submit that handwritten paper. And you should not write more than 4 or 5 pages. 5 pages means one side of the page. Okay, sometimes every year a couple of students come up and say, you said 5 pages, which means each page has 2 sides. So I have 10 pages. Not 10. So 5 sides of a page is not more than that. Okay, and I'll tell you what are the points that you need to bother about. I will write on Google Classroom what are the sections of the review that you need to write. For example, what exactly the problem was, what exactly the approach or method was, what were the key results, not everything, key results, and what is the significance, what is the interpretation of that result. 3-4 such section, I'll give you those headings in writing in Google Classroom.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? So what do you think about final exam? Should we have Viva? Okay, we will discuss that later on. Let's finish off the evaluation of your current sheets and then see how well are you doing, and accordingly we'll plan for the final exam. Okay, if there is no other issue, should we stop?